Welcome to our Parent Information presentation for Prep 2021. I am Tracy Ramsey, the Coordinator of Student Support Services. Joining me in this presentation will be our College Speech Pathologist, Erin Mellifont, and Early Years Support Teacher, Leanne Barrett. Here are our faces so you know what we look like as you see us around the college. This information session, we will be covering the topics of language development, literacy learning, and skills for your child to be successful at prep next year. Erin will now share with us the importance of language development.
Here are some points you might be pondering as your child enters prep. What is speech and what is language? When should I be concerned about my child's speech development? And what can I do to help? It is common for people to become confused as to the difference between speech and language, and the two terms are mistakenly used interchangeably. To help you differentiate between speech and language, you can think of speech as the way we make sounds and combine them to form words. So this occurs at the level of the mouth, lips, and tongue. Language involves combining words to express thoughts and feelings, and understanding what people say. So when we talk about language, we're talking about two aspects. Receptive language, which is the ability to understand and comprehend what has been said, and expressive language, which is the actual production of a message and the ability to express oneself. Just like young children usually crawl before they walk, there is also a general pattern to the development of sounds. You'll see that by the time your child is starting school, they should be able to accurately produce most speech sounds. But remember not to get hung up on what age the typical child masters a specific sound. Use this as a general guide only. Think about your child individually, how their speech errors are affecting their ability to communicate and be understood by others, how that may affect their schoolwork, their interactions with their peers, and their self-esteem. Let's be advocates for our children's development and give them the support they need to be effective communicators, whether or not it is the right time to address a specific sound according to speech sound norms. By the time a child is 5 years of age, everyone should be able to understand 100% of their speech. However, they may still struggle with a few more complex speech sounds, such as R and TH. If you do notice errors in your child's speech, there are a few things you can do to help. Provide a good model of how words should be produced in your own speech. For example, if your child was to say, "Get it down," you might model the correct sound back by saying, "Get what down?" "Oh, get this down? Okay, I'll get it for you." It is also important to teach your child to notice their own errors so they can learn to self-correct. You can do this by providing feedback on their production. For example, "You made a great k sound then," or "I heard the k sound at the beginning of that word. Good work." Language development is a critical part of child development. It supports your child's ability to communicate and express and understand feelings. It also supports thinking and problem solving, and developing and maintaining relationships. Learning to understand, use, and enjoy language is the critical first step in literacy, and the basis for learning to read and write. By 5 years of age, children can usually follow 2- and 3-part instructions. For example, put on your shoes, get your backpack, and line up outside. Listen to and understand instructions without needing to stop or look up. Understand time-related words such as before, after, now, and later. Those words can be put into groups and can give some examples. For example, fruits or types of transport. And understand most WH questions, such as who, what, where, when, and why, including those about a story. Expressively by 5 years of age, children can usually use longer, well-formed and more detailed sentences that can be understood by most people. Join phrases with conjunction words such as if, because, so, could, and. Tell simple short stories that have a beginning, middle, and an end. Use past and future verbs correctly, for example, went or will go. And use language to ask, negotiate, give opinions, and discuss ideas and feelings. It is important that children starting school have well-developed oral language skills for a number of reasons. In the classroom, talking is the primary medium by which teachers communicate with their students. Strong oral language skills create an important foundation for reading and comprehension. Research shows that children who lag behind their peers in language development are at risk for later literacy difficulties. And vocabulary knowledge is strongly related to reading success and overall academic success. So what can you do at home to help ensure your child builds a strong oral language foundation? Reading aloud to your child is the single most important way for children to develop the knowledge they need to succeed in reading. Read aloud to your child every day, aiming for a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes each day. Point to the words as you read. Before, during, and after reading the story to your child, stop and ask questions. Encourage your child to ask questions and talk about the story. Ask them to predict what will come next. Point to things in the book that they can relate to in their own life. And be flexible about how you read a book to your child. There's no need to read a book cover to cover. If your child is interested in a particular page, spend time on that page. You don't have to read every word on every page unless your child really wants that. And read yourself. What you do sets an example for your child. A good strategy for building both a child's expressive and receptive language are Blank's levels of questioning. Marion Blank studied the language used by teachers in the classroom. She found that there were 4 different levels of questions used. Basic questions ask for simple, concrete information, whereas more complex questions ask for abstract information. Children will need to understand and respond to all these levels of questions to function easily within the classroom. We can use these same levels of questioning when we read to or play with our child. It's important to remember that the ages given are an average only, with 75% of children generally able to answer questions at this age. If your child can't answer some of these questions, don't panic. These are the questions we want to work toward being able to answer. Level 1 questions relate to the immediate environment and require concrete thinking. The objects being discussed are in front of the child or have just been removed, and the questions may only need a very short or non-verbal response, such as pointing. Some examples include, what is that? What can you see? What is the horse doing? Is it a horse? Understanding of these questions generally develops around 2 to 3 years of age. Level 2 questions involve some analysis, such as classifying or grouping objects, describing or understanding object functions. The objects or events being discussed are still in front of the child, but the child has to look at the material more selectively in order to understand the questions. Some examples include, find something that can cut. What is happening in this picture? Find something that is brown. How are these different? Understanding of these questions generally develops around 3 to 4 years of age. Level 3 questions require the child to use their own knowledge to make basic predictions, assume the role of another, or make generalizations. Through this, they begin to use higher order thinking skills. These questions require the child to use language to restructure and reorder their experiences and attend to less of what is immediately in front of them in order to achieve the correct response. For example, what will happen next? How do you think he feels? How are these the same? Understanding of these questions develops around 4 to 5 years of age. Level 4 questions involve problem solving, predictions, solutions, and explanations. They require own knowledge and thinking about the future and past. These questions go beyond the here and now and are the beginning of problem solving and reasoning. Some examples include, what will happen next? How did that happen? Why can't we? How can we tell he is sad? Understanding of these questions begins to emerge at around 5 years of age and is continuing to develop at 6 years of age. In order to use these questions most effectively to improve your child's understanding, it is important to recognise their level of understanding and keep the conversation largely within this level. Simplify your questions to the level where your child can understand. Practice questions at an appropriate level for your child and move towards more complex, as this will ensure that they are able to make generalizations and always learn from the interaction. Restate information, but vary it slightly so that your child is given greater opportunities to understand and process the information that is heard. And talk more, rather than less, about the material or experiences. Comments are vital to expand your child's understanding. The one-hand strategy is a reading comprehension strategy premised on research that shows that adults ask children many questions to which they already know the answers. Additionally, we ask children these questions without providing supports to respond appropriately. It is like making repeated withdrawals from your bank account without first making some deposits. The more deposits you make, and the better they are, the more withdrawals you will be able to make. The strategy is simple. Model good language use by giving 4 pieces of information in short, simple sentences before asking your child a question. For example, as you show the cover of the book, you could say, I can see some tiny twinkling stars. The sky looks dark. I think it is night time. Here are 2 sheep. One is big and one is small. Then you might ask your child, what do you think this story is about? Remember that reading aloud to your child daily is one of the best ways to prepare your child for learning. Reading aloud helps to expand their vocabulary, improves comprehension, strengthens imagination, promotes bonding, increases attention spans, and creates a lifetime interest in reading. And remember, it doesn't have to be 15 minutes in a row. You don't even have to finish the book or read all the words. Talk about the pictures instead and exclaim as you turn the page. Just enjoy, engage, and do it every day. You can also have fun building your child's language skills in the following ways. Give your child a chance to start a conversation with you. During mealtime, wait silently for your child to show or tell you something. Then comment with interest on what he has said or done. Starting conversations is a very important social skill which needs to be encouraged in young children. Use everyday routines to encourage back and forth conversation with your child. Language is learned during back and forth conversations in everyday activities. Let your child help you unpack the groceries, put laundry in the washer, or use a plastic knife to cut up fruit. Encourage conversation by talking about what you and she are doing and how this relates to family members. Encourage pretend play. Pretend play provides wonderful opportunities for your child to use more advanced language. By pretending, they will learn to use language to create a pretend object or situation, or to set the stage for a pretend scene. Join in by taking on a pretend role yourself within the scenario your child has created, but let them lead the play. Talk to your child about the reasons for things they see. There are many things your child won't understand. why police cars have sirens, why there are traffic lights, why dogs have leashes, just as a few examples. To help them explain these things, talk to them. For example, the dog has a leash so he can't run away. If he runs away, he could get lost, and then his owner won't know where he is. Even if your child doesn't understand everything you say at first, you are introducing them to many important ideas which will contribute to their understanding of the world. And finally, encourage your child to tell stories. Storytelling is an important skill because it involves learning to use very clear, specific language about something which is no longer present. It can be fostered by talking about stories related to family members and events, or by retelling familiar books or movies. You may need to help them by adding details or by clarifying who did what and where. It takes a lot of practice with both listening to and telling stories for children to become effective storytellers. In every activity, look for ways to expand or extend their language, and always encourage and model good grammar to your child by repeating back their utterances, using correct grammar, and emphasizing the problematic words. For example, if your child says, "Look, 2 mouses," you can model, "Yes, there's 2 mice." Or if your child says, "Him run," you can model, "He is running." Do not always expect your child to repeat the correct model. Often just hearing it is enough. However, occasionally you can encourage your child to repeat your model. In this way, you can ensure your child is attending to the correct form.
Some of the most fundamental skills that your child will develop in prep are learning to read and write. Here are some of our preppies during a guided reading session. In order to develop the skill of reading, the child needs to first learn how to decode the words, which means work out what the word says. For example, d, o, g equals the word dog. Then your child needs to know what the word dog means. For example, your child might say, "I know what a dog is. I have one at home." This is called reading comprehension. Learning how to read and write is like building a house. Children need to learn the foundation skills first before they can learn how to read. If the foundation has not been built up properly, then each layer added on top of it will not have a firm base. Eventually, the house will crumble or fall down. Oral language and phonological awareness skills are a critical part of the house's foundation, along with knowledge about how print works, grammar, and vocabulary. So what are phonological awareness skills, and how can you help your child develop these skills? You can talk with your child about how words are made up of syllables. Words can rhyme, words can start with the same or different sounds. Words are formed by blending sounds together, and words can also be separated into individual sounds. You can say to your child, "What is this word I am making with the sounds b, a, t?" Another important skill that children need to acquire in order to learn to read is phonics. Phonics is the ability to match speech sounds to letters. You can help by talking about the sounds that you can hear in words. For example, you might say, "I'm thinking of a word that starts with the sound b. It is round and you like to throw and catch it." That's right, it's a ball. When your child comes to prep, he or she will initially bring home picture books for you to read to them. You can talk about the book with your child and ask them the questions that are inside the book. Once your child has some knowledge of basic sight words, some knowledge of letters and sounds, and the ability to blend these sounds together to make words, he or she will start to bring home readers that they can read to you. Some of the home readers will be decodable texts, which means they contain words that can be sounded out, and some will be predictable texts with lots of repetition in them. Here is an example of a decodable reader. You can see that it contains words that can be sounded out, like Sam, Sat, and Pip. So what can I do to help my child get ready for prep? You can help by pointing out the front and back cover of books, the title of the book, the difference between words and pictures. Show them that we read from left to right on a page and from top to bottom. You can help your child by singing the alphabet song with them. You might like to play I Spy using sounds. Ask questions about the books that you read together. Talk about words and sounds in the books you read. Read signs to your child that you see around the community and join the local library. Tracy will now speak to you about the skills needed for prep.
It is important when your child comes to prep, they are able to understand and follow oral directions from adults, as well as being able to follow 2 or 3-step instructions. You can practice this at home by giving your child more than one instruction at once. For example, first put your water bottle away, then wash your hands. In order to be successful at prep, your child will need to be developing their interacting skills so they can chat confidently with peers and approach adults for help when needed. Independent toileting is an important skill for prep students. You can be helping to prepare your child for prep by practicing their letters and numbers. Writing their own name is ideally a skill each student has prior to commencing their prep year. In order to engage in learning, prep students need to be able to sit and listen for at least 5 minutes, and this expands quickly as concentration grows throughout the year. Prep students are expected, within an age-appropriate level, to be able to self-regulate their emotions. For example, to cease crying once they've been comforted and the situation has been resolved, or maybe cry for a short time due to parent separation early in the year. If your child experiences difficulty separating from their adult family members, please provide further opportunities for this prior to starting prep to ease their transition into morning separations next year. To manage at break times, your child will need to be able to unzip their bags and open their lunchbox independently. They should be able to identify and put on their own hat, undo zippers and buttons if possible. Pencil grips. The tripod grip is the correct pencil grip which we are aiming for with all of our students. Your child may currently be in one of the first 3 stages of pencil grip development. We have discussed this with most of the kindies and childcare centres who are working with your children currently on their pencil grip. It's important that children are guided correctly before bad habits start concerning pencil grips. There are commercial grips available to assist with this, so your child's prep teacher will be able to assist if this is a concern next year. Ideally, our prep students will start the year using the correct scissors grip. Please use this as a guide when you are practicing cutting with your child at home. As you can imagine, it will be very appreciated by your child's prep teacher and school officer if they have the skills to cut independently and safely when they come to prep next year. In order for your child to be a confident preppy, please practice the skills discussed over the next few months, including writing and recognising their name and the names of familiar letters, counting and cutting out shapes. Your child will also benefit from practicing both their fine and gross motor skills prior to commencing prep next year. Fine motor practice activities include threading, painting, colouring, drawing, as well as sensory play, including sand or water or finger paint or Play-Doh play, and hammering and banging. Gross motor skills include jumping, hopping and ball skills, as well as balancing and climbing. Speaking about starting prep in a positive way will help your child look forward to starting their school adventure. Leanne, Aaron and myself are available for contact if you have any questions. Please email me if you would like further information or to discuss any concerns. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to having your child start their educational journey with us at St Eugene College in 2021.